First of all, welcome to M&E, Meinders und Elstermann. M&E Druckhaus was established around 130 years ago as a printing house. We're based near Osnabrück in Bern, in a facility we built 26 years ago and have continued to develop over the years. Today, M&E uses 4XL machines, perfecting presses, various folding machines, perfect binders and saddle stitchers, for the most part in the production of brochures and catalogs. I myself joined M&E in 2017 and used to do something completely different. My background was in retail, and I slowly went from being someone who knew nothing about printing to being able to hold my own. It is my privilege to run this company of 150 employees, and I'm very proud of my team.
Wir haben gemeinsam mit meinem Start
At the same time I started at M&E, we put the business manager into operation after quite a long project planning phase to integrate it into our system. This was gradually followed by other systems from the Prinect world. Starting from 2018, we really focused on prepress and thought about how we could optimize the entire use. I come from the digital world. That's why we are firmly convinced that there's an urgent need to provide each employee with access to information, something that was not possible with the license model we had been using up until then. The production manager, on the other hand, offers exactly that. We can give each employee the information they need to do a good job. That was the main reason for the decision. The benefit of the production manager is that we took a very complicated process, who can do what, when, where, and using what software, and made it something very straightforward. So we are very happy with our decision. Looking back to the time before 2017, in other words, before we made the decision about the Heidelberg software, we had an integrated system that came from different partners. We had Megalith and ESCO and Heidelberg machine software, very well coordinated with other tools that looked after the optimization and automation. However, the maintenance involved was enormous, and whenever one of the partners announced a new piece of software at the end of a product lifecycle, to name but one example, the coordination required to restore the status quo was huge. That's why we firmly believe that everything from a single source is the best solution. The path from a completely individually constructed world to a world based on a standardized concept is certainly a laborious one, but it's definitely worth it, because the result is a reliability where each partner knows for sure that it is responsible and has to provide the solution. We're very happy with this. Any integration process is probably never really finished, because there are always changes. Here, Heidelberg gives us the certainty that we're developing in the same direction with our partner, by having the machines and the same thinking and constantly sharing thoughts and ideas. Maybe not always at the same pace, but in the same direction. It is very important that we always pursue the same goal. In the past, we had partners who decided to suddenly switch from offset to packaging. As a result, the functionalities changed and it became less interesting for us. Today, we're confident that we're on the same path and that it's the best path. Meinders und Elstermann has definitely changed dramatically as a company in the last 2 years. When you look at our competition's websites, their focus is mostly on the products or the machines they have. Our opinion is that this is the wrong path, and that it's our employees who add the value. We want to make this understanding visible. This also helps our employees up their game by gaining self-confidence with more decision-making options. They need transparency and information for this. They get these from the software systems, because we can provide the information required by the role. A helper working at the perfect binder needs to know how to package things so that the order reaches the customer in perfect condition. We fetch this information from the portal based on the order created in the Business Manager and pass it on to where it's needed. If we look around today, our efficiency has definitely increased and will increase further still, but it's also important to identify the gaps where there's nothing to be done and then consistently send the employees home. And conversely, to schedule them when they are actually needed. This is transparency that we apply all the way into working time scheduling. And this results in more satisfactory and meaningful deployment of employees. What we want to put in place with our philosophy is that our employees do not simply come to work for 5 hours. We want him to look around at what he has to do and make a task of it. This builds satisfaction and inevitably also quality, because tasks are things you take on and don't get told. Treating our employees as respectfully as possible so that everyone is deployed in accordance with their talents and qualifications is a question of philosophy, and the supervisor is no longer the one who makes the decisions here. In case of doubt, the employee himself does. If the work is there and he's the best one at laminating, then he can decide to do that. In that respect, I'm sure that this way of working improves not only quality, but also employee satisfaction.
Der Mitarbeiter dadurch steigt. Ein Standard-Reporting ist in den Prinect-Systemen.
The Prinect system includes a standard reporting feature, but to find the exceptions, to identify the opportunities as far as make-ready time optimization or job combinations are concerned, Smart BI is an incredible tool, particularly for people who approach things and make decisions visually. I'm someone who prefers to analyze a chart rather than an Excel worksheet. You can do a tremendous amount with the chart technology. The drill-down functionality is a dream. Visualizing the massive data that we produce for each job and each day is actually only possible in this helicopter view, using a drill-down functionality.
Mit einer Drill-Down-Funktionalität möglich.
Transparency is always a double-edged sword. Transparency means openness, and that also means dealing openly with what happens when. Of course, you can evaluate every piece of data, but you don't need to. We've agreed with our Works Council not to run any performance evaluation at operator level at the moment. We have this information in order to determine structural data and identify differences. When I look at our current Smart BI, what interests me much more at the moment is the paper waste rate for each type of paper and grammage, rather than which employee may need training or can improve further. That starts with oneself. Transparency and change management, the way we do it, means that you as a company director start to make yourself superfluous. Once the company has understood how things have to work, once everyone does their bit and communication between everyone is working, any hierarchical position over that is actually superfluous. That was always my goal. I am passionate about doing things to do myself out of a job. Only then will I have created this transparency and the opportunity for employees to take over the company, and thus their existence on their own authority. Whether I'd actually go is another question. I like it here. For me, the planning board is the yardstick for how our company is working. If I look a week ahead, I have relative certainty about what the utilization and timing are like, and how the machines and employees are scheduled. The combination of the planning board and portal has also resulted in me completely changing my daily routine. Since the functionality is available in mobile format, it means that I, after I've woken up in the morning and greeted my wife, can take my cell phone, open the portal, and check how the presses have run overnight. I can see whether there have been faults and which job is currently running with which level of quality. Only then will I decide whether I can have breakfast in peace or need to go straight into work. And I can say the number of good breakfasts is increasing. Here's an example. Using the infinite number of licenses allowed us to change our entire prepress, which had previously worked in 2 stages due to the number of licenses available at that time. We always thought the capacity of the plate manager was the limiting factor. Far from it, it's actually the number of licenses available. Today, everyone works at the same time, together with our processing department. The result is a completely new dimension and quality. Because everyone is there at the same time, they can communicate, and everyone can do what they do best. We have real talent. That alone is a huge benefit. We no longer work nights in pre-press. I don't know whether you're the same, but I find it really hard to focus after 7 p.m.